Hello. So I put Kurmasana and Supta Kurmasana on the YouTube, and the question was asked about whether or not there's some modifications for people that really it's an anatomy issue where you might have a longer torso and your legs might be shorter, and whether or not you're still able to get into Supta Kurmasana. And some people definitely are. If they're really open in the hips and no back issues, then definitely it's still possible. But for other people, it's just not ever going to be possible to actually get your legs behind your head. I don't want to say it's never going to be possible, but the thing is, you don't ever want to jeopardize your back or anything just to try to get into a posture that may actually not be suitable for your body type. And so the best thing to do is to work with what you have, and you're always continually trying to open hips and work on flexibility and breathe into places to help you sort of limber up, and basically the intention of the pose is there. You're doing everything that you can, and you're getting the same sort of work that you would be if you're someone else who had different proportions, who was doing the full posture. And the other thing too is that even if you have, your proportions are not an issue, if you're very tight in the hips, again, it's just better to work with modifications, at least for a while, until you start to open up. So, what you can do if you have shorter legs, or if you are still working on the flexibility issues, is that when you're going into Kurmasana, firstly, the main focus, like any asana, is the breathing, because it's your breath that's going to give you, it's going to allow you to move into these postures. It's going to allow you to move into them safely. So as you're coming in, when I first started, kept my knees slightly bent, opening the hips so that my body can move forward. And so right here, you're already starting to work on opening the hips and working on that flexibility. And you're giving yourself some space too, to then try to move the arms underneath you. If you're working by yourself, it's much more difficult than with a teacher. A teacher can sort of move with you and help place your legs closer to your body. But if you're by yourself, then you're going to let your own breath be your guide and your teacher. So as you're breathing, on the inhale, bending these, exhale, you're sort of moving your chest closer to the floor, and you're also encouraging your arms to go underneath you, keeping the legs bent. And you're also encouraging your legs to get closer in to you. So as you're moving your sort of heels together, you can encourage your shoulders to come more directly underneath the back of the knee. So keeping those knees bent, you can sort of encourage yourself to do that. Knee straighten out into Kurmasana. And here again, you can keep the knees bent if it's a flexibility issue. If not a flexibility issue, then just extending your legs. And then Supta Kurmasana, before going into it, again, for flexibility or for various proportions, you can still work on trying to find that flexibility in the hip. So the hip moves forward and the leg is coming right next to your body, right there. And the shoulder is going underneath the knee. So, and if the knee is, sort of down here somewhere, you're just wanting to encourage your shoulder to go underneath the leg somehow. And you might kind of try to get your head in there, but that's not really necessary. Just sort of working on that flexibility, keeping the hip forward and the legs really snug in. And you're also working on curling your torso, and you're really breathing. And on the exhale, you can sort of curve a little bit more. Okay, so you've done that on both sides, giving yourself a stretch. All right, and then for the modification, again going down into it and trying to grab your hands if possible. If not possible, then just getting as close as you can by continually moving your leg closer to you, creating space so you can move your shoulder further underneath the leg. Do it on both sides. Walking your foot in, bring your leg closer, to try to get closer to be able to grab your hands behind you. And if your legs are quite short in comparison to your torso, then it's fine just to keep the legs as close to your body as possible. That's totally fine. If you can, though, you can cross your ankles and just place your head directly on the feet, encouraging those hands to come together. So that is totally fine too. The best thing to do is to play with it, and if you're feeling anything in the lower back at all, see if you can completely relax. And what I mean by that is as you're breathing, instead of hardening the belly at all, on every exhalation, you're just surrendering. You're letting everything completely soften. And as you're working with the breath, you're sort of moving your legs closer and closer in towards you. So you can rock, move things in, further and further, bring your chest further and further down towards the ground. And again, moving with your breath, softening the belly, and finding a flexibility, keeping it out of the lower back. And crossing at the ankles if you can, putting your head directly on top. Okay, so give that a try. And again, if that's as far as you can go, that's as far as you can go. I doubt that anyone would hold you back from going further in a posture if it's an anatomy issue. If anything, you're doing the best that you can, and then there's going to be lots of postures that are going to be perfectly suited for you. I know for me, there's never any way, as far as I can see, that I'll be able to jump through with straight legs. I just have a very short torso compared to my legs. I don't know, maybe it's an excuse, but in any case, there's always something for everyone, and always going to be challenges. But modifications are there to help us deal with the posture the best that we can, and to keep us from being injured. Because at the end of the day, it's just not worth it. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.